Previously on Action.
There is still killings around the community.
But what do the younger generations think of sorcery-related violence?
Young people are saying enough is enough.
Hi, I'm Hezron Wangi Jr. Thank you for joining me on Action. Action is a series that explores the complex problem of sorcery accusation-related violence in Papua New Guinea. For our feature story, on this episode, we will look at how this belief not only impacts the lives of families, but how it hinders development in communities. We now hear the story of a teacher who shares a personal experience of sorcery accusation-related violence, which resulted in the burning of a classroom in her village.
This looks like a picture of paradise, and in many ways it is. But unfortunately, sorcery-related violence knows no boundaries.
Lagu hanua na mai metauna. Bema hanua taudia yekora rediamu eya ba yema semoneka nai. Tauni manima idau tatu diamu.
In 1998, in the Rigo district of Central Province, a community school was burnt down in the middle of the night. A retaliation against the family of a local teacher who had been accused of having caused the death of a villager through sorcery practices, or Vada, as it is known in the local language. 24 years later, the same family is still suffering from a stigma that has been placed upon them. We're about to hear how devastating sorcery accusation-related violence is and how it can tear apart entire communities.
My name is Daira. Currently I'm teaching at Gamoa Primary School, and this is my 8th years being a local there. It happened somewhere around 1998, I would recall, because the elementary school was established in 1997. It was under the care of my dad's small brother, Mr. Pidibai. Whatever the grudge was, we found out that it was related to this sorcery activity, family having accusing our family of this activity, and then the elementary old building was burnt down with some thousands of learning materials that was funded by the government.
Apa primary? 1 and 2.
The school became stagnant. Most children were transferred to the neighboring schools, Taruba and Kemabolo. And so the enrollment really dropped, and we would have less than 5 children to a class. That really affected the school, having a very small amount of subsidy coming in. And most parents who had that grudge against our family wouldn't turn up for school services like work parade and PNC meetings. And then, so From there up until now, it has really affected the development of the school.
It's easy to accuse someone. All it takes is to point fingers. But what about the consequences of such an action? And how can a family continue to live in a community where they have been marginalized for so long?
We feel isolated from everyone. Everyone just live their life, their own families, not like before. We're living in a normal society where we would do things together, religious activity, normal community events. Now we have done away with special occasions events too, not even sports and all those things. Just because of this, it has rooted in the mind where people just accuse anyone. So we are just isolating ourselves from any other gatherings for avoiding not to be accused falsely. I was asked by my family to leave the school, but I have the heart for the children where I couldn't do that, where I have to serve. I was there for the community, not for a particular family who was accusing us.
One can only imagine the amount of suffering a family can go through under similar circumstances. But how can an entire community turn on someone and accuse them of sorcery? To better understand these dynamics, we talked to Professor Miranda Forsyth from the Australian National University in Canberra, who spent years researching on sorcery accusation-related violence in PNG and the Pacific.
Really, it's a cycle. And one way of thinking about it as a cycle is to think about it as a wildfire. So it starts off with a sort of a conducive landscape where, in Papua New Guinea, as in many parts of the world, it's very common when things go wrong that people start to ask, well, who is responsible? So there is a worldview in which, people do naturally make accusations that somebody has caused misfortune through the use of sorcery or witchcraft. Then we can think about the fact that there is this fanning of the flames, so we've got a small suspicion that starts, but that suspicion then grows into a big fire through the input of people who are sharing stories, who are whispering and gossiping, the Prem warriors who might come in and identify certain individuals, or the Glass Man and the Glass Mary who come in and who do that. And then the whole process becomes out of control.
They say this land is full of sorcerers. They say that we should live in fear. Whenever people die around here, they blame sorcery. Lanti pore tumas. Other places, it's even worse. They hurt the people they blame. How can we live like this?
In some communities, there are tensions about land disputes, or there's polygamy, which gives rise to certain jealousies, or there are certain people who are, going onto university, and other families whose children were not able to do that, and that also gives rise to these jealousies that increase the threat levels.
How would you encourage those who are willing to effect change in their own spheres of influence?
It's very difficult as an individual to stand up. Often people are afraid to speak out. But if you can find others that are there who are also courageously standing up and saying, no, we don't want to have a part in this, then that's absolutely the way to affect change. And so I would encourage those people who want to bring about change in this area to speak to their family, to speak to their community, to find out who are those other people who they can also reach out to create these networks of support.
I'm one of the victims of this sorcery accusation, and what I would say is it is caused by jealousy. But just a difference between the living standard that is provoking them to accuse people falsely. I mean, how could you stand it if you see on the media that people are tortured falsely while their loved ones watch on? We are human beings, we should be treated like human beings and not like animals. I, for one, I'm accused, and I could feel it now. What if I was going to be tortured, and families who are depending on me, if they look on, what would happen?
We will now join our young people in Tubusera village, Central Province, who had attended a workshop called Engaging Youth in Ending Sorcery Accusation-Related Violence. The workshop was hosted in partnership with The Voice Inc., the Australian National University, and the National Research Institute of Papua New Guinea.
It is an ongoing thing here in our village, not only in our village, but along the coastal areas. And it is mostly all about accusation.
But people don't openly talk about it. People, they talk about it behind closed doors and with their families and their friends. But it's alarming to also note that it transcends into other bigger issues like conflicts between families, between clans, or it can also lead to other issues like land issues and all that. We need a pathway that that leads to development and leads to positive change in our community. And I think things like sorcery accusation-related violence are certain issues that becomes an impediment to us actually getting there.
Sometimes we won't have the courage to stand up.
I hope and prayerfully, by faith, that things are gonna work out. As a young person, I have to stand up my right and to fight for what is right and what is just for this community.
The idea is by nekini bamodia. Like I say, waudia by hada. Like I say, bekara. Love.
Hi, my name is Zaria, and I'm part of the Clean Generation, a movement of young people all across Papua New Guinea who are taking a stand to build a nation that is strong and safe. And it is important for us to take a stand against sorcery accusation-related violence. You have seen people at the front line, heard their stories, and seen the impact of this violence. Young people are saying enough is enough, and that this violence has to end.
Coming up in the next episode of Action.
There was a woman who had her baby cut out of her by her husband, and it was evident that there were a lot of stories coming in to the post courier about domestic violence.
This cycle of violence within the family seems to be one of those most accepted violence